So the simple way is when I started doing this bottled concept, what that came out was what was I feeling? What was I saying? What was I doing? I was so self-aware of myself while some really cool shit was going on, and I was taking friggin' notes, and I knew what was going to happen ahead of time. So I knew if I act like this, talk like this, feel like this, have every single ounce of this in my DNA without a doubt, um, I know what the outcome is going to be. And so I was like writing it down, and um, then when bad shit is happening, I'm examining that. And that one is a really, really tough one because you're while you're self-examining how you can make good shit out there, you're self-examining yourself like really, really friggin' deep, really friggin' deep, but honest honesty is like, and um you're wrong. Like I had to find wrongness about myself in order to stop this. And it started with intentions, that a lot of it had to do with intentions, that with my husband being as abusive as he was, and seeing how it affected my kids, how I responded to his abuse. Was it about revenge, or was it about the best interest of my kids? So I had to have the word, just the word, intentions in my life to help stop that river of thought that, oh, I'm angry and it took me 6 months to realize that. I had to have that under control as much as possible because I'm smarter when I'm not angry. But sometimes these emotions get the best of you. And what I went through, this man was getting the best of me, which is why I'm doing what it is I'm doing. I mean, there's like almost 30,000 hate Google posts out there about me. And the only reason I'm doing it is to explain what hate is and what hate serves you. And it's like, as long as you're hating, you're dead wrong, and you are dead wrong about your own personal life as well. You're dead wrong all the way down. Mandelbrot set, patterns within patterns. This is your behavior. Your behavior will be the same in all aspects of your life because it's hate. Hate is anger. Anger is negative. So it doesn't matter whether the point of view may be right. They may have some aspects that makes logic sense, because in our reality, in this dual reality that's going on, two things are operating at the same time. You can view the exact same situation from a negative perspective and see one picture, or you can look at it from a positive perspective and see a completely different thing from the same event. There's two things going on that you can choose it to be whichever way you want it to be, but it starts by you. So that's why time yourself. Anger and feeling bad and really painful. I really had a really, really tough year. It's still going to be painful to me, but it was painful to the point where I couldn't function. I think I'm even emotional about this because of my father. So a lot of things are collective, a lot of things are tied together. But when my son got married, that was really, really painful, getting married without me. Um, and that's a pain that's going to be with me for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life, my son is married and I wasn't there. So, um, getting over that is impossible because that's the reality now. Every time I see them, I will be reliving um, that feeling. Um, the only way that I can overcome that is we got to create one hell of a great relationship that has me focused 100% on how great a time we're having. Otherwise, my focus will go down a river of pain, or it'll go down a river of, okay, I can see you guys are going to be making the same mistakes as I made. And if you want to make your own mistakes and think they're your own mistake when they're perfectly identical to my mistakes, knock yourself out. I got smart in the end, so I'm pretty sure that they're going to get smart in their end. So see, I had to come up with a story. It took me a year to come up with a story. But that's ultimately what depression is for some reason you're replaying the same story over and over and over again. And for what I had to do is I had to replay a completely different story that made sense. It's got to make some logic sense to you. You can't be just fooling yourself. You've got to look for that positive other story. Another story that goes, oh, really? That's another possibility? That's true. That makes a lot of sense. That is a possibility. I choose the positive. So, if we're all viewing life from a positive perspective, then it's a game changer. And if we're all involved in that matrix, then no matter how bad Japan is, no matter how bad, I mean, Slave Lake is completely burnt. My husband's friends, my ex-husband's friend lives up there, so I'm pretty sure his house burnt down. My only reason why they're not really friends is that they're really, really close friends of my ex-husband, and not one of them told him he should be paying child support while they had these um, like family reunions of everybody that went to school together. They were doing that like we're 40. So it's like every year these people are getting together, and not one of my husband's friends stood up and said, you know, you need to feed your children. What you're doing is dead wrong. So I don't really have, they're learning their lessons. You know, I'm watching their houses burn down, and they're going to have nothing the same as me, which is really, really odd. And my ex-husband right now has absolutely nothing right now, and he's in a much worse position than I was. Um, my father, you know, getting a, you know, now doesn't have a dime. He's lost everything because from what I hear, everything's been put in my brother's name, who sold the family house. Instantly, my father was in the hospital with a coma. I presume this is, nothing's been confirmed, but I'm presuming everything was put in my brother's name. And they sold the house instantly. My mother was put in a home where she couldn't even say two sentences. It sounded like babble, babble, babble. Wouldn't have been there if I was there, but you know, family doesn't want to stick together and think they need each other. So they're too busy pushing family away that when they really need family, family is not there for them. So that's sort of the sad part about it all, is that knowing that two daughters that are on a disability could be there helping their parents, but their parents are too busy pushing the daughters away, while the son, who's greedy, 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 is all stressing out by looking after two of his very, very old, sick parents while he's trying to work. Sold the house instantly, so I'm pretty sure he lost a lot of money there. They're telling my mother, I guess, that she's just visiting this new house, that I guess they bought an acre, that they put two houses on the land, and so he's got his house and my parents are in a different house and he's right next door able to help them out. So it's kind of a cool thing. Hope it works for them. Um, but my mother, they're telling her that she's just visiting this other house. And they've already been able to manipulate that they sold her cottage, which was her favorite thing in the whole friggin' planet. And they sold that on her and let her know that the cottage was sold. But when they want to sell the house, they don't want to quite tell her that. And yes, she will be extremely pissed off. Why? This will blow your mind away. And this is the secret that I have to break from my mother, so that this gets important enough that either this is going to be a non-issue and nobody will ever know because it's just a very small channel. Nobody really listens to it anyways. And this is a long series. If you hung in for this one, you deserve to hear this secret. She wanted to leave my father years ago when if you leave with nothing. This is when women didn't have a right to leave. So she stashed away. She went to work. That was a big fight. She, after we got into high school, she put herself through high school, was very proud because everybody let her know she was very, very stupid. But she put herself through high school and she got some courses and got a job, which was a big, massive struggle for her. and she put 20s away in the house. So my mother wanted to leave my father but had no way. So here's a woman that put $20 bills hidden inside her house so nobody would see it while she has Alzheimer's and my father has a friggin' stroke and in the hospital. My brother sells the house like this, doesn't look through anything in the house, just throws everything away in the garbage. No sale, nothing. So this money is either still hidden in that house, so the new owners have this money, or it's thrown away in a dump. And there's something like $30,000 worth in there. So, and I know that when my mother had Alzheimer's, this is part of the secret that's, I knew way too much about my mother than anybody else of the family knows. Me and my mother have a very close relationship, which is why I would still, once in a while, try and contact her, but even if it meant that I had to go through my father to do so. And when I was going through the roughest time and needed to go to court and finally had my day in court, but that meant that I had to travel across the country. I didn't have nothing to do so. In her Alzheimer's minds, where she couldn't think of anything, and like everybody thought she had, couldn't even have a conversation with anybody. Here she schemed her way to take some money out of her room, so I know it's hidden in her room. And she had to smuggle it out of the house because my father would pat her down with a big hug. So she would wear the biggest coat, and that has the biggest pockets, and come out the door because before I was leaving, she wanted to have lunch with me. This was all a big surprise. So my dad will think that I was taking advantage of my mother. That's the first thing, because I'm a negative thing. But my mother surprised me with this, that she wanted to have lunch with me every day. And she would surprise me with this chunk of $20 bills. And they were massive. It was so massive. You can't go to a bank to explain where all of these 20s came from. I mean, I tried to do that in a few banks and everybody started to question it. And I couldn't because it was a big secret. Because if my father ever found out about it, she didn't know what would happen. But I don't think my father has much of a choice, since he doesn't have ownership of anything. My brother does. So she's not going to be left outside the streets because of this money being found out about. And I hope my father can still accept the fact that he was a very, very angry person, and my mother's a friggin' saint to love him the way he does. And if my father happens to be doing any better, it would be because my mother has Alzheimer's, because she keeps saying, that's her bud. He's really, really good to me. He is my best friend. She sees nothing but the good in my father. So my father is hearing nothing but good things about himself from my mother, instead of my mother trying to defend herself and fighting and saying negative stuff in return to him. She's coming out with good things. She once said, I can't fight with you anymore. I don't even know what we're fighting about. It's pointless. She's a genius when she loses her mind with Alzheimer's. Very creative for somebody with Alzheimer's to come up with a plan, because it took about a week. We met for lunch, and every lunch was the same way, and she told me there was over 30,000 in the house. That this didn't even touch how much was inside her closet. And all of that is either in the garbage or in that house, or my brother found it. It isn't telling anybody. And oddly enough, everybody that has done harm to me is suffering right now. So that's what's going to happen. That's the domino effect that's going to happen, is those that are on the bottom that have been harmed by the few, level at the top, the lower class that was harmed by the middle class is now going to suffer on them. The middle class that had the upper class on them, they're going to suffer from that. But the upper class is going to suffer from another class, and that class is going to suffer from another class until then all of them are going to be united and transfer it over to there. I'm going to continue.